So last night I watched a film called Await Further Instructions. Now this is a science fiction based horror flick, and I am the target audience for a movie like this. I adore stuff like this. This feels like a Twilight Zone episode, a Black Mirror, something like that. There's been so many great lower budget sci-fi horror movies that have come out in the last few years that just don't get any attention at all. Like Circle, Sam Was Here, Radius, Time Lapse, and one of the best flicks of recent memory, Coherence. There has just been so many awesome science fiction horror flicks that are on the lower budget end of things. Not super low budget. These aren't extremely low budget by any means, but they're lower budget, and I don't know why they don't get any attention. They're so interesting. They're so well done. They're so well thought out. If you haven't seen Coherence, oh my God, what are you doing? It's just absolutely fantastic. And as I already mentioned, all the other films as well, I really just enjoy this kind of movie. So this is currently streaming on VOD, so you can rent this. I want to say it's like $4. I absolutely thought it was worth it. Yes, I think that there's going to be people who are lost on this film towards the end because it does get a little out there and ridiculous, but I love films that just go for it. This film could have been more ambiguous. It could have, had one of those endings where it was like, well, that's open for your interpretation, which this is definitely open for your interpretation, but at least it shows you something to interpret. There's so many movies that I watch where you're just sitting there at the end and you're like, wait, that's it? That it's over? Nothing happened? Oh, no, something happens here. Whether you like it or not, I personally really enjoyed it. And we will be discussing this in full on In the Mic of Madness. This was Rebecca's pick of the week. So thank you to her for picking this because I loved it. But full spoiler discussion on that podcast coming soon. But yeah, I mean, if you're into Twilight Zone type stuff, the story as it goes is a bunch of people get together on Christmas, a family. They are kind of an estranged family. The son comes home kind of as a surprise with his girlfriend, and the family is just not getting along all that well, and they go to sleep that night, and when they are woke up in the middle of the night, they try, the couple that came over to surprise the family gets up to try to leave the house in the middle of the night because they don't want to deal with it anymore. And when they open up the door, the house has been, quarantined kind of. There's this black material that is covering all the doors and exits no matter where they try to get out of the house, that stuff is covering. And on the television comes instructions from the outside of what to do. And on the television, they're starting to get messages that seem like they're helpful at first, but as the film goes on, what it's telling them to do starts to break down trust and, pit people against one another. It's very claustrophobic. There's a lot of trust issues throughout the film. It actually kind of reminded me of another movie, which isn't really sci-fi horror. It feels like it at first, but it isn't. It's more straightforward. But it's got this kind of everyone's against each other, claustrophobic feel, and that's a film called Exam, which I thought was excellent as well. It's a bunch of people fighting over one job position and them doing anything to try to get it. They're locked in this room. It's awesome. I love it. I think it's on Netflix. But it had that same kind of feel to it. I really dug the shit out of this movie. If you're into science fiction horror, I highly recommend it. I do think there's going to be a lot of people who do hate kind of where it ends up, but I thought it was really interesting and will be fun to explore in a discussion. So if you do watch it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Other than that, let me know your thoughts. All right.